Hi everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel. This is my review of You'll Be the Death of Me by Karen and McManus. So I received this copy in exchange for an honest review. Actually, I received the ebook and then this copy arrived a lot later. So by the time this arrived in the post, I had actually already read the book as an ebook. You'll Be the Death of Me is coming out on the 2nd of December in the UK. I think it's coming out a few days earlier in the US. I believe it's the 30th of November. And as always, I'm going to start off with a very brief synopsis of the book. Not a very long one because this is a thriller book and you don't want to know much at all going into it, and then I'll get into my thoughts and feelings about the book. So You'll Be the Death of Me is about 3 teenagers called Ivy, Matteo and Cal. They all coincidentally have a very bad day one day and they decide to skip school, which may not have been the best choice because they end up coming across a dead body of another classmate, and then they spend the entire day trying to hide from the police in case they end up being caught up in this murder mystery plot. That's all I'm going to say about the synopsis itself because I don't want to ruin any of the surprises for you, so I might as well get into my thoughts now. So this book is probably my least favourite of Karen and McManus's. I gave it 3 stars, which isn't a bad rating. It means that I enjoyed the book. I think this one was actually a little bit of a letdown. So to begin with, it's very slow paced in the beginning, and that's not great for a thriller book. You want a thriller book to grab you and hook you, pull you in, keep you very interested throughout the entire thing. But unfortunately, this book kind of spent a lot of time introducing you to the main characters, about each of their different troubles, and not much time kind of building up any suspense, which is a shame because I do think that this had potential, especially because I know that Karen and McManus can write really well. I don't think the main mystery itself was my favourite kind of mystery, and that's why I also didn't love this one all that much. In this one, it's more of a bigger picture sort of thing. In my favourite mysteries, I tend to enjoy the small town drama, like a revenge plot or some jealousy or something, whereas this didn't really have that because the main characters weren't necessarily as connected to the murder as I wanted them to be. I know that sounds weird, but that's how I feel. They spent a lot of time in this book kind of running about, sitting down and talking rather than doing any investigating themselves, and I guess that's realistic for teen fiction because you don't really want the teenagers getting too involved in the investigation, but that's kind of what I read thrillers for. And I think because we were following these 3 perspectives, I was never really all that scared that one of them had something to do with the murder and one of them might be the bad guy, which given Karen and McManus's other books, maybe that was a mistake. I'm not going to say whether or not I was correct or whether or not I was kind of thinking along the right lines. It's very hard for me to talk about thriller books actually in reviews, even though that's normally all I do, because I really don't want to give away the reveals. But in this one, there's not actually loads to give away and there's not much that could really lead you in the right direction. There aren't many clues to follow, and I think again that's why this one was a little bit disappointing to me because I really enjoy putting puzzle pieces together and kind of figuring it out, and I really like being right as well. Whereas with this one, there wasn't really much to go on. I do have to say though, there was a very strange relationship in this one between Cal and a teacher. I wouldn't normally spoil that necessarily for this kind of plot, but I think it's very important to disclose that there's a student-teacher relationship in this one, and the way it was handled is just very odd. So it didn't really seem to go anywhere in that I'm not even sure they were actually together. I'm not sure why they were together, like on a sort of character relationship level. I'm not sure why the author included the relationship in there at all because it didn't really add anything to the plot. I guess it made it so that Cal was connected to someone whereas normally he wouldn't be, and that kind of might have been the reason. If that was the reason, then it wasn't addressed properly because there was no kind of big moment of student-teacher relationships are wrong, the teacher's disgusting for doing this. It was very much brushed over and I didn't like that. I think it could have been handled so much better, and it was just a very strange kind of plot element to include. I don't know why she did that, and it just kind of befuddled me. Is that a word? Befuddled? I think the ending of the book was actually its strongest part. I really enjoyed the way that things came together, but I wish that kind of intensity had been there throughout the entire book because it was done really, really well. And I do wonder if the author maybe thought of the ending first and then tried to build up to it in hindsight after already knowing what would happen. I don't know how these ideas come to Karen and McManus. The ending was definitely the best part of the book for me, and I also quite enjoyed reading about the relationship between Ivy and her brother. That was something that also really stood out to me, and I didn't think it necessarily would from the start of the book, but that was enjoyable to read about. I don't really want to talk about it too much, but at the beginning she doesn't necessarily get on with her brother that well. There's a lot of jealousy there and envy, but towards the end of the book they sort of come a bit closer together, and that was really nice to read. I also wanted to say that I enjoyed the plot between Matteo and his cousin she's a female cousin, and how they were looking after Matteo's mum. I thought that was really interesting to read about. It's a good relationship. I don't want to talk about that too much because it's explored more in the book, and so I don't want to spoil it here, but I really enjoyed reading that part of the story. So there were some elements that did come together for me, and they did definitely work. It's just the main overall mystery that I didn't really enjoy, but I did really enjoy the other characters' backstories. Cal, not so much. I don't really understand what his thing was, but Ivy and her brother, and Matteo and his cousin and his mum, those storylines were really nice. Apart from the love story, like, I don't care about the romance here. So overall, this book was a little disappointing, like I said in the beginning, but it's definitely not the worst book out there. I gave it 3 stars, which is still a good rating. It means that I enjoyed it, but it's not my favourite book of hers or at all. I think there are much better YA thrillers out there. I think I enjoy my thrillers being a little bit darker and, like I said, a small town mystery revenge plot rather than what this one turned out to be. And then also with a couple of very strange choices thrown in there by the author. This one just was very middle of the road and I didn't love it. So that's quite disappointing for me because she is one of my favourite authors. I tend to enjoy all of her books, but I would say that this one is even not as good as The Cousins. I know that's most people's least favourite book of hers. So putting this book last, I feel, is really saying something. I actually quite like The Cousins though. As a side note, it was quite a good book. So if you have read this book already, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. If not, are you still going to read it after watching my review? Do you agree or disagree with me? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Bye!